The transits of Mars and Venus are quite problematic for Donald Trump during September of 2020. Both planets challenge his 12th house Venus-Saturn conjunction, Mars by square, and Venus by doing its yearly return through that point at the very beginning of the month. If Saturn were not opposing that 12th house conjunction at the same time, these two transits would be anything from far less difficult to perhaps not much at all. But the problem is that, as luck would have it, Saturn is indeed there, and that means these two faster moving transits become dangerous triggers that will tend to accelerate the deeper negative energies that Saturn stirs up. A 12th house Venus next to Saturn is far from ideal, but since at birth the major aspect of that conjunction is a sextile to the midheaven, yearly Venus returns to that point are no big deal. A new start in matters related to the 10th of career and the 3rd of messaging, media, information flow, etc. This year, however, is different. In this new start, in this Venus return, corresponds almost precisely with the release of the losers and suckers story, which will almost certainly damage his electoral prospects in some way, add to the death by 1,000 information cuts in another, and being the start of the cycle, doesn't bode well for those two areas of his life over the next year. When you hear military, Mars is almost always involved, and it's no surprise to see this scandal emerge with Mars squaring that 12th house conjunction. A while back, with Mars earlier in Aries and triggering his Eris Mercury-Neptune T-square, the Russian bounty's military scandal surfaced, and I had mentioned in videos that since Mars would be in Aries one way or another until January, we would probably hear more about that story. But now the military connections have surfaced in a different way, and the bounty thing is being used to corroborate the strong likelihood that he did indeed use very inappropriate language in regard to the fallen soldiers. All of this is Mars transiting through his 9th, which is the polar opposite to the 3rd, but still a house of published information. Mars stations on the 10th, so expect either these stories or more stories or any combination of media stories to continue to present serious threats all throughout the month, because Mars isn't away from those Venus-Saturn degrees until the second week of October, and the area it is stirring up is very tricky while Saturn is on the other end, itself moving toward a late September station. I also think this tells us he is going to get increasing heat for the national COVID status, since these houses relate to health, which will of course be really bad for him, but in that case also terrible for the rest of us. And because Mars is simultaneously trine his natal Mars, and he senses he is behind in the polls, he is lashing out with full force aggression, making zero attempt to temper his actions, such as, for example, telling his supporters that voting twice is a good idea. Bottom line, that idea or any other idea are unlikely to be good this month, and Trump is going to see his problems multiply while he continues to trail Biden in the race for president. His desperation will likely lead him into actions that will make things even worse. I'll end by issuing another warning to our reckless president. This type of Mars trigger action, involving these houses together with Saturn, is quite dangerous for your own health as well.